Lorraine's premonitions. Lorraine Warren sees the future. Throughout the Conjuring franchise, fans have documented instances where Lorraine's visions don't just show her the present danger, but events that haven't happened yet. In The Conjuring, she sees Ed impaled on a wooden stake during her investigation of the Perron house, a vision that doesn't come true in that film, but mirrors the imagery of Ed being thrown in Conjuring 2. In Conjuring 2, her vision of Ed's death shows him in their living room, which occurs at the end of the film during the lightning strike aftermath. The Nun films reveal that Lorraine has been seeing Valak since childhood, decades before the demon actually attacks her family in 1977. Fans argue this isn't just clairvoyance about current hauntings, but actual precognition. If true, this means Lorraine has been watching her husband's potential death play out in dozens of variations throughout their entire marriage, and every case they take is influenced by futures she's already seen. The theory suggests she guides Ed away from certain cases or toward others based on these visions, making her not just a psychic investigator, but a navigator through branching timelines, constantly steering toward the timeline where they both survive. Bathsheba's descendants. Bathsheba Sherman didn't work alone. This theory connects the witch from the first Conjuring film to other antagonists throughout the franchise, through either bloodline or demonic pack succession. Bathsheba sacrificed her infant child to Satan in 1863 and hanged herself from a tree on the Perron property. The theory points to how Annabelle Higgins also attempts to sacrifice a baby in 1967, exactly 104 years later, using similar ritualistic language. Both women hang themselves after their acts of devotion to demonic forces. Fans suggest that certain demons specifically recruit witches who are willing to kill their own children, creating a lineage of servants across generations. Some versions of the theory claim Bathsheba's spirit actively recruits new witches even after death, appearing to vulnerable women and teaching them the same dark crafts. This would explain why multiple cases in the Warren files involve maternal figures turned murderous, and why the pattern of child sacrifice repeats across different decades and locations. Valak's master plan. Valak the Defiler has been hunting Lorraine Warren for decades. The theory argues that every appearance of the demonic nun across the franchise is part of a calculated campaign to claim Lorraine's soul specifically. The Nun is set in 1952 in Romania, where Valak is temporarily trapped after Father Burke and Sister Irene seal the gateway. Conjuring 2 takes place in 1977, 25 years later, where Valak directly attacks Lorraine through the Hodgson case in Enfield. Fans note that Valak doesn't actually care about Bill Wilkins or the Hodgson family at all, using them only as bait to draw Lorraine to England, where she's far from her spiritual protections at home. The demon specifically exploits Ed's near-death experience to weaken Lorraine psychologically, then attacks when her faith is most vulnerable. Evidence includes how Valak appears in Lorraine's visions years before Enfield, stalking her through her premonitions. The theory suggests Valak specifically wants Lorraine because her psychic abilities would make her an incredibly powerful demonic servant if corrupted, and that the demon's ultimate goal is not to kill her but to turn her into something like itself, a corrupted religious figure serving hell instead of heaven. Annabelle's true power. The Annabelle doll is a conduit, not a container. While the films present Annabelle as housing the spirit of Annabelle Higgins and a demon she summoned, fans theorize the doll actually channels multiple demonic entities simultaneously. In Annabelle Creation, the demon first possesses the doll in 1955 after Janice opens the closet. In Annabelle, set in 1967, the doll displays abilities far beyond what a single demon should possess, including teleportation, reality manipulation, and control over other spirits. The Annabelle Comes Home film shows the doll activating every other cursed object in the Warren Museum simultaneously, something that requires immense power. Fans point to how different people see different things when they look at the doll, experiencing personalized hauntings tailored to their specific fears, suggesting multiple consciousnesses working through a single vessel. The theory proposes that Annabelle functions like a demonic switchboard, allowing any demon who knows the right spiritual frequency to operate through it. This explains why the Warrens keep it locked in a special case lined with specific prayers, because they're not containing one demon, but blocking access to an open doorway that dozens of entities could potentially use. Maurice's possession. Maurice Theriault connects to everything. The opening of The Conjuring shows Ed and Lorraine presenting Maurice's case at a university lecture in 1968, where Maurice describes being possessed by an inhuman entity that made him commit horrible acts. The theory focuses on what Maurice actually says during his testimony, that the demon told him it wanted him to kill his family, the same instruction Bathsheba gives to possessed mothers. Fans have noted that Maurice's demonic possession occurred in 1967, the exact same year as the events of the first Annabelle film. Some versions of the theory suggest Maurice was actually present at the apartment building where Annabelle Higgins died, or that he encountered someone who had interacted with the Annabelle doll before it reached the nursing students. The timing suggests a wave of demonic activity in 1967, possibly connected to a specific satanic event that activated multiple entities simultaneously. If Maurice's demon is connected to the larger network of entities hunting the Warrens, it means even their earliest documented cases were part of the long game against them. The Crooked Man. The Crooked Man is death itself. In Conjuring 2, young Janet Hodgson encounters the Crooked Man through a zoetrope toy, and the entity appears as a tall, impossibly twisted figure from the nursery rhyme. The theory connects this entity to the Ferryman, another death-related spirit in the franchise, suggesting they're different manifestations of the same concept. The original nursery rhyme, "There Was a Crooked Man," has dark historical interpretations, possibly referring to people who died in unusual ways, or the twisted path to the grave. Fans note that the Crooked Man appears specifically when Janet is closest to death, when Bill Wilkins is using her body and her life force is weakening. The entity doesn't directly harm her, but seems to observe, like a psychopomp waiting to collect a soul. Some versions suggest the Crooked Man is neither good nor evil, but a neutral force that various demons like Valak attempt to manipulate or impersonate to frighten victims closer to death. Real Warren cases. The films hide actual Warren cases in plain sight. Background shots of the Warren Museum show dozens of artifacts and case files that never get explained in dialogue, and fans theorize these represent real investigations that might become future films. Sharp-eyed viewers have spotted case labels, including The Samurai Armor, The Shadow Doll, Occult Museum Collection 1973, and various photographs of locations that don't match any depicted case. The theory suggests James Wan and the writers plant these Easter eggs as breadcrumbs for expanded universe content, but they're based on actual items from the real Warrens collection. Judy Warren's future. Judy Warren will inherit everything. Throughout Annabelle Comes Home, young Judy displays the same psychic sensitivity as her mother, sensing spirits and seeing things others cannot. The film is set in 1972, when Judy is approximately 10 years old, and she already demonstrates remarkable bravery when confronting the activated artifacts. The theory suggests that Judy will grow up to be even more powerful than Lorraine, because she's being raised with full knowledge of the supernatural from birth, without the years of doubt or gradual acceptance her mother experienced. Fans point to how Judy instinctively knows how to pray effectively, understands the importance of the blessed case around Annabelle, and remains calm under circumstances that traumatize adults. If the franchise continues forward in time, Judy would be in her 20s during the 1980s, potentially investigating cases alongside, or instead of her aging parents. The theory proposes that later films might show a grown Judy Warren as the protagonist, with Ed and Lorraine in supporting roles, passing the torch to a new generation of supernatural investigators who combine her mother's gifts with her father's determination. By the way, if this is your kind of content, I post videos like this all the time. A subscription would really help me out. Artifact Room Connections. Every object in the Warren Museum amplifies every other object. Annabelle Comes Home demonstrates this theory when Annabelle's influence spreads throughout the entire artifact room, activating cursed objects that have been dormant for years. The film shows the wedding dress attacking, the ferryman appearing, the hellhound manifesting, and the mourner's bracelet causing havoc, all simultaneously. Fans argue this isn't just Annabelle being powerful, but evidence that cursed objects create a network effect when stored together. Each artifact contains residual demonic energy, and proximity allows them to feed off each other's power like a supernatural chain reaction. The theory explains why the Warrens keep everything locked in one room, with continuous prayers and religious protections, rather than separating dangerous items into different locations. They've created a containment field that works like a spiritual Faraday cage, but if that field ever fails completely, the combined power of dozens of possessed objects releasing simultaneously could create a catastrophic supernatural event. This makes the artifact room both a museum and a potential bomb, and suggests that Ed and Lorraine's death, or the failure of their protective rituals, could unleash an apocalyptic scenario. The Ferryman Entity. The Ferryman serves no one. This entity appears in Annabelle Comes Home as a tall figure in a cloak who marks victims for death by placing coins over their eyes, based on the mythology of Karen, who ferries souls across the river Styx. The theory argues that, unlike the demons who serve Hell's hierarchy, the Ferryman is an ancient neutral entity that exists outside the conflict between good and evil. It simply guides the dead to whatever afterlife awaits them, whether heaven, hell, or something else. Fans note that when the ferryman appears to Judy's friend Daniela, it doesn't torture or terrorize her in the way Annabelle and the other demons do. It simply shows her the death that's coming, almost as a warning. The entity doesn't try to possess anyone or claim souls for hell, it just does its job as a psychopomp. This neutrality makes it more frightening in some ways because it can't be reasoned with or prayed away. The ferryman comes when it's genuinely time to die, and the only way to escape it is to not die, not through faith or courage. Perron family targeted. The Perron family was chosen before they moved in. The first Conjuring film presents the Perrons as unlucky people who unknowingly bought a cursed house, but fans theorize Bathsheba Sherman's spirit actively lured them to the property. Evidence includes how Roger Perron got an unusually good deal on the house in 1971, with the previous owners eager to sell quickly despite the property's size and land value. The theory suggests Bathsheba can influence potential buyers, making the property seem appealing to families with the specific characteristics she wants. A mother with multiple daughters, creating multiple potential victims, and maximizing the mother's anguish when forced to kill them. Fans point to how quickly the haunting escalates compared to reports of previous occupants who stayed for years. Bathsheba seems prepared for the parents specifically, as if she's been planning their arrival. The idea that the family was hunted and selected rather than randomly cursed adds a layer of intentional malevolence to the haunting and suggests Bathsheba retains enough intelligence and agency to actively recruit victims rather than simply haunting whoever happens to live there. Ed's hidden ability. Ed Warren has psychic abilities he doesn't acknowledge. Throughout the films, Ed is presented as the non-sensitive partner who supports Lorraine's gift, but fans have cataloged moments where Ed demonstrates knowledge he shouldn't have. He often knows exactly where to look or what questions to ask before Lorraine shares her visions. In Conjuring 2, Ed paints a portrait of Valak before Lorraine fully describes what she saw, capturing details she hadn't mentioned. The theory suggests Ed has low-level psychic sensitivity that he either suppresses because he doesn't want to distract from Lorraine's stronger abilities, or genuinely doesn't recognize as supernatural intuition, assuming it's just investigative instinct. Isla's true identity, sister Irene, is something more than human. The Nun films show Irene, whose real name is Isla, as a novitiate with unusual abilities to resist and defeat Valak. She survives encounters that kill experienced priests and exorcists. The theory proposes several possible explanations for her power. She's the reincarnation of a saint, possibly the original Saint Irene of Rome, who died in the 4th century. Alternatively, she's a descendant of the Duke of St. Carta, who originally imprisoned Valak centuries ago, making her bloodline specifically equipped to combat this demon. Some versions suggest she's actually an angel in human form, sent specifically to counter Valak's escape. Evidence includes how she instinctively knows prayers and rituals she was never taught, how she survives injuries that should be fatal, and how Valak seems to recognize her specifically rather than treating her as just another victim. The films deliberately leave her background vague, showing her arriving at the convent with little explanation of her past. If Irene is genuinely supernatural in origin, it explains why she succeeds where experienced demon hunters fail, and suggests that heaven actively intervenes in the Conjuring universe by sending champions to counter specific threats. Multiverse theory. The Conjuring universe contains portals to hell dimensions. Rather than demons simply existing in our world, this theory proposes that entities like Valak, Bathsheba, and the Annabelle demon come from parallel dimensions where different physical and spiritual laws apply. The gateway in the Abbey from the Nun isn't just a symbolic doorway, but an actual dimensional rift. Fans point to how demons in the franchise often distort reality, creating spaces that shouldn't exist, hallways that go nowhere, and rooms that change size. In Conjuring 2, the Hodgson house seems larger on the inside during haunting sequences, with additional rooms and corridors appearing that don't match the building's exterior dimensions. The theory suggests that when demonic activity intensifies, the barrier between dimensions weakens, allowing more of the hell dimension to bleed through into our reality. This explains why exorcisms and banishments work. They're not destroying the demons, but forcing them back through the dimensional barrier and sealing the temporary rifts they create. It also explains why certain locations become permanently haunted, because repeated demonic activity has worn the dimensional barrier thin in those spots, making it easier for entities to cross over repeatedly. The music box. The music box is a summoning device. In the Annabelle films, a distinctive music box plays a haunting melody and features a spinning figure. The theory argues this isn't just a creepy prop, but a functional occult tool that operates on specific frequencies. Fans with musical training have analyzed the melody and claim it contains interval patterns associated with historical accounts of demonic summoning rituals, particularly the tritone, or devil's interval, banned by medieval churches. When the box plays, it doesn't just signal the demon's presence, but actively calls the entity through sound vibrations. This explains why the hauntings intensify when the music box is opened, and why stopping the music sometimes halts the immediate attack. The theory draws parallels to how certain cultures believed music could open doorways to the spirit world. If the music box generates a specific supernatural frequency, it means anyone who possesses it and winds it up is unknowingly performing a summoning ritual, which explains why the doll's influence spreads so easily to new owners. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing so you catch every new video. Thanks for watching.